Welcome to Does It Sing with David Goldsmith and Friends, a podcast from Virtual Stage Lab.
Chers lovers of musicals, it is with deepest pride and greatest pleasure that we welcome you to our humble podcast. And now, we invite you to relax, pull up a chair, and ask yourself these three basic questions. Does it sing? Do I care? Why this show? Why now, mon frère? These three questions are the best when you decide, should I go there? Every show is a fight. It takes years to get it right. Is there conflict? Is there tension? Are the stakes too low to mention? First assess your milieu. Is there too much work to do? Will it bring the raison that it needs to bring? Nail down the atmospherics, then we'll craft some lyrics. Should it be? Do we care? Does it sing?
Okay. Welcome to Does It Sing with David Goldsmith and Friends. So today is an actual, well, you know what? So far, they've all been actual friends. This is a great friend. We've actually been on vacations together, and we've actually, it was a work vacation, but it was still a vacation. We'll talk about it. Zina Goldrich, I'm going straight from the website here, an award-winning composer, conductor, musical director, and performing artist. I can vouch for all of these things. Her romantic comedy and theater songs have been sung around the world by Broadway stars, including, but not limited to,
right,
Audra McDonald, Kristen Chenoweth, Megan Hilty, Sierra Boggess, and Alan Cumming. She won the 2009 Fred Ebb Award for Excellence in Songwriting with longtime collaborator Marcy Heisler. Here's where I will insert a photo of me singing at that event, which I actually did back in 2009.
Oh my God, that's going to be great.
When I was very thin. I was like, you caught the year you won that award, I was peaking. It was great. So Zina's not technically in yet. She's not hearing this. Okay. All right. I'm gonna read this pretty much the whole way.
The whole thing. Oh my God. Okay.
All right. Here's what I'll do. Ever After, their musical, enjoyed a sold-out run and was the first production on the brand new Coca-Cola stage at the Alliance Theater in Atlanta. Production I saw, loved. Current projects include a new musical. What are we calling it now? We're not calling it Yay People Yay, are we? We're calling it
No, that's different.
We're calling it Reconnecting.
It's called Reconnecting.
I remembered. It's called Reconnecting. I've also worked on that as a performer with multi-Emmy Award-winning writer David Javerbaum and Hollywood Romance with Emmy Award-winning book writers Gabrielle Allen and Jen Crittenden. Jen Crittenden, I remember her name on the credits of Seinfeld. Am I right?
That's
yeah.
right.
Super funny.
They were writers on Veep. They're
and Veep.
Fantastically smart, wonderful women.
Incredible. Other Goldrich and Heisler collaborations include Dear Edwina, Drama Desk nomination for Best Music, and Junie B. Jones, Lucille Lortel nomination, which ran successfully off-Broadway, as well as Goodspeed's The Great American Musical, directed by Julie Andrews. That's right, Ms. Gold.
Let's pause and have a moment of silence before we say
All
Julie.
right. Julie Andrews. Thank you, Julie. Ms. Goldrich was a staff songwriter for Walt Disney Feature Animation. On television, she has composed for ABC's The Middle, Wonder Pets, Johnny and the Sprites. There's so many of these.
Yeah.
Kennedy Center appearances, Carnegie Hall, recipient of the ASCAP Richard Rogers New Horizons Award, a Larson Grant, artist in residence second stage, keyboards on Broadway shows, studied with Jerry Goldsmith, no relation, legendary film composer, and a proud graduate of the University of Southern California, scoring for motion picture and television program. She has taught master classes at NYU, Northwestern, Carnegie Mellon, as well as many universities. She also coaches privately and is one of my dear friends. Please welcome to the podcast, Zina Goldrich. Welcome.
Thank you. Are you going to put in like sounds of massive applause or no?
Yes. Here they are. Done. Yeah, done. I'm getting good at adding shit. So you got it. Like literally.
Well, I asked for it. I'm thrilled to know you asked for it. You can get it.
Yeah. Listen, ask away. If I what if I can deliver, I will deliver. How are you?
Oh, good. I'm happy to see you.
I'm happy to see you too.
Excited about your podcast. I think it's so fantastic, and it's really for those people who really like a deep dive into musical theater writing, and so congratulations on it, and thank you for asking me to be on it.
Well, thank you. And you notice I shut up while you complimented me because I'm learning. Usually I'm just talking right over you,
Okay,
right?
right. It's fine.
We just had dinner last week at the Shake Shack.
We did.
And we were
Here's a picture of us.
here's a
Like that.
you know me too well.
I know. I just thought I'd set it up for you because I know you're going to cut that in.
So I have one of my listeners who actually did send a comment, and they said, because there was an episode that was only about, um I mean, from their perspective, I was just promoting and promoting and promoting. So let's start with promoting and promoting, promoting. What did I leave out from your read of your bio that you want to just mention that you're doing right now?
Okay.
And then we're
Well,
going to get into the deep dive. Go.
okay, sure. Well, first of all, I'm happy to report that Ever After is going to be at the Phoenix Theater Company in May and June of 2026.
Which I was gonna. That was sort of my Shake Shack thing. It was like we discussed that this was happening. So good.
Yes, we did. So that actually is happening. We're already in auditions, and I can't believe we're still here, but like we are. Some things take a long time, and
Yes.
we'll see what we have. But I'm very excited about the stuff that Marcy and I've been writing, and it should be. I'm just excited. It's going on. What
All
can
right.
I?
I'm gonna chime in here because we actually talked about this last week. But I'm just gonna say, for those of you who are thinking about, buying a ticket for this production in Phoenix, which you really should, and you should actually fly out and see it. I've been following Ever After like forever because, well, first of all, your writing partner Marcy is she and I go back to even before I ever met you, and so I've just, I've admired you both for so long. And I've been privy to every draft and every version of Ever After. And it's really been through an incredible journey. And we could do an hour, we could do 2 hours on just the journey of Ever After. But I really do think it's an interesting allegory to how, with time, things age and they come in and out of their moments, and momentum comes and momentum goes. But if you keep working and you're doing your work correctly, eventually the time will come, and all of the experiences that you've had on the project and in your life will finally coalesce into that moment when once again it's time. And I've seen Ever After go through all of those iterations, and I've seen it like 10 years ago hit this is the time, and then that time not happen, and how heartbreaking that is for all of us who do what we do. That moment when it's ready and it's right, and the stars do not align for whatever reason, and it feels like that opportunity is lost forever. But if you continue to do your work, eventually, all of the reasons why it didn't happen, thank God it didn't, because now is the time it should. And from my perspective, right now, you are absolutely at that time with this project. I think the music, the lyrics, the story, and the timing of when we're doing it, when you're doing it, I feel like it's we. Because I have such ownership.
I feel like this whole community is pulling for us. I really do.
Yes.
People have said to me over the years about that, and I really hope, this is gonna happen. I'm like, me too, But like you said, you keep doing your work, you keep your head down, keep your eyes on your paper, and I'm excited for the one more chance at seeing this up on stage with our fingers in it and our control of it, and hopefully we've gotten it right, and maybe it'll go to Broadway, maybe it won't, maybe it'll go to licensing, maybe it won't. I'm hopeful and excited about the project, which is a lot to say after all the time that's gone by. So
And how many, like, let's just say we're talking about 2026. When you first sat down, you know, like pen to manuscript, how many years ago was that? This is important to like everyone to sort of have a realistic understanding of what is actually involved
I
here.
think this was really unusual, but it's been 20 years. And one of the reasons for that is that during the first 4 years or so, we were writing the show, we were doing the development process, and we were in line for an out-of-town production. And unfortunately, our producer had another show that didn't do very well, and that affected his ability to continue with our piece. And so we lost the rights. We didn't have the rights. So Marcy and I, after, 4 to 5 years of working on it, spent 3 years, 4 years, maybe even longer, I don't know, getting the rights to another producer who would want to produce this score with this particular musical. So when we got our first production at Paper Mill, that was at least 10 years into the process already.
Yep. And that was I mean, a major production 10 years into the process.
Right.
And then there's
And
another 10 years
then,
out of
and
that.
yeah, and then what happened after that was we had some more development. We were working on it and all. And as you do, we had a production at the Alliance, and that went very well too. But that was in January of 2019, and we were preparing for future things to happen. And
Yep.
I don't know, something happened in 2020 that
What's that? I just
dead. I don't know.
I can never remember.
I
Yeah.
know. So that cost another several years, right?
Yeah.
So here we are, once again. But I feel good about the fact that it's actually happening again. So people must believe in it in some way that, it's not time to put it in the drawer. Just
No, no.
maybe at some point, but now is not the time. So.
Well, I first of all, I think fundamentally, it's always had material that was worthy of being heard and seen, always. And I think that as a piece of adaptation property, it's one of those that there was work to be done to bring it, into another iteration. It wasn't just like a lot of times when we're looking at, well, what are we going to adapt? It was fine as a movie and they really have nothing new to say. And
Right.
I think you've always had more and interesting things to say about this property. And I think that has only been one of the elements that has really increased and improved as the time has gone by.
What's pretty exciting though is even during all of this time period, many of the songs have had their own life outside of the show.
Yep.
Singing, right before my eyes in audition. I mean, I think it's in a Hal Leonard book of,
Yeah.
10 songs, and Who Needs Love is in one of the book for, higher voices. And so, I can't complain about that. We have I mean, we could have an entire book on all the songs that were,
Yes.
written along the way, and maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll just put a collection of them because there's so many, how many songs get thrown out along the way, and
Yep.
many of them are really they're good on their own. I would love to see them have their own life, whether they end up in the show or not.
I want to actually go back to the point you just made, but before I even do that, I want to just ask you just the basic question of, let's say you've got 20 songs, 22 songs going into Phoenix, right? How
Mhm.
many songs would you estimate over the 20 years have you written to arrive at these 20?
I don't know.
60?
75,
How
something.
many?
75.
75, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it could be more because, they're all each one. If you end up with 22, and then let's say you've cut at least 10 to 20 just getting to that, and we've had, this will be our
Yep.
third production. So, at the very least, I would say, like 75.
Yeah, I think this is such an important thing. A lot of times, those of us who grow up falling in love with musical theater, we imagine, and I've used this quote before, that all of these shows emerge like from, I used the Peter Stone quote from 1776, fully grown and on their horse, you know. And it's not true. I mean, when you look at, for example, the history of the Music Man, I mean, what that was before it became that thing we all take for granted, it's the same process. There's no circumventing the process. So even in a 20-year process that it's taken forever after to get to where it is, you say 75 songs. Even if it hadn't been 20 years, let's say it's 15 years, you're still talking over 50 songs
For sure.
to get to the 22
Sure.
that you want.
And these aren't the days of like when Lerner and Lowe were writing their musicals. They had done, I think the night they invented champagne was My Fair Lady, and then they used it later
Yep.
for Gigi, you
Yep.
know. So I would love to put these songs in another thing, but lyrics are such a specific thing. And music you can recycle fairly easily, but not always. I mean, everything has its own character and its own
Yes.
style. And I think the way writing is now, we're at a level of specificity
Yep.
that that prevents us from really embracing a complete like trunk song. It does happen. It has
Oh yeah.
happened, sure.
Has there a notable by the way, I think if you really, really are good at your job as a lyricist, it's not as big an ask to repurpose a song that seemed so perfect in one under one lens and shift it to another. I've certainly done that, and I think you can do it in a way that you obliterate from the memory of anyone who knew it that that was what it used to be. But is there an example that comes to your mind from
Well, we had a song called "A Thousand Stars" that was written for me. I Marcy had written this lyric after I miscarried before having my first child, and it was more about wanting a child and not as much about like miscarrying. But she so graciously and so beautifully wrote this lyric, and I love the song, and it got done here and there, but it wasn't really known. And then during the pandemic, there was a musical that we did called Breathe, where there were five different stories, and the book was by Tim McDonald and Jodi Picoult. And so we were on one of those stories, and it was about a couple that had split apart, and Marcy had the idea of using that song in the in a flashback, and so we can see kind of why things happened and when and everything. And so we repurposed that song in that show, and you can, I'm sure, cut in Kelly O'Hara singing
let's do
"A
it.
Thousand Stars."
And is it the same title and the same lyrics, or how?
It is basically it's basically the same. I think it's mostly the same. So it was really just put in a dramatic context instead of just being, you know,
Right,
an individual song.
right.
So
I mean,
that
I'm
was
thinking
not
specific,
written for a specific show. It
and
wasn't
I'm
written.
thinking specifically, was there a moment? Because I mean, I will say this: Marcy Heisler is one of the lyricists who is, and it's very hard to find, who is such a skillful craftsperson. She's one of the people who can actually like say, "Here's a song that we were using that had this one context. I'm going to keep this melody because this melody." That Zina wrote can apply itself to this completely new context. Write a new set of lyrics and you'll never know the difference. Is there an example where the lyrics changed? I can ask her this when we interview her, but we're going to do separately. But is there something that comes to mind?
Nothing's coming to mind right now, but I'm sure like as soon as we finish this
Yeah,
lovely interview that it's
we'll
going
go
to come
back.
to mind, and I'll call you up and say, "Oh, just cut whatever the song is that I call David back and say, "Oh, how
Sure.
about this song?" David's going to cut it in right now.
But it's a part of the process, and it's something that you get better at the more you get good at it. And Marcy is one of those lyricists who's like she's also an educator, she's a teacher, she can she can adapt those skills to whatever the needs are. And I've seen over the course of just, if we're just going to look at Ever After and not even any of the other stuff, and of course, there's a whole body of work that the two of you and you with each of you with other people have amassed over the course of your careers. And it's in a body of work that is incredibly consistent and incredibly impressive. And so that's okay. That being said, I want to go back because I'm imagining our listener hearing you say there are these songs from these out of town productions of one of our shows that somehow managed to get into a Hal Leonard songbook and published in this song. Explain as quickly and briefly as you can how that ended up happening.
Well, It's a hard thing to explain because our journey to Hal Leonard was not an easy one. Um, we had started out, we wrote a song called Taylor the Latte Boy, which is
Okay, let's talk about it. I knew it was going to come up.
it
I
was going to come up. It's one of
I
our
didn't want to be the one to bring it up. It's a
well,
big hit, guys. I think you all know Taylor the Latte Boy. Let's talk about it. Let's get into
uh,
it.
yeah, I love that song, and I'm proud that we wrote it. And at the time, once Kristen Chenoweth sang it on the Rosie O'Donnell show, we figured, hey, we'll be able to, get this published, right? And so we wanted to do a book, but we got a lot of no's at the time, even though it was all over the place and everything. So Marcy and I, being the plucky young women that we were and are, we published our own book. And so we put all of those songs uh, in a book and did the whole printing process and copying and all that stuff and dragging boxes of books over to Colony Music and out to Hollywood Sheet Music in Los Angeles. And oddly enough, because, and we put on the cover, includes Taylor the Latte Boy. And so Colony put it at the end of the aisle, and that thing kept on selling, and they kept it there until they closed. So it stayed there at the end of their aisle. And
I
and
remember seeing it. I remember walking
I
by.
miss that store so much. I miss having
I
to
know.
kind of wander around. But I mean, the internet is a store you can wander around. Jump ahead, somewhere in the middle of some of these reprints, we were finally able to get a deal with Hal Leonard. And so Hal Leonard took over the reprints of the book and combined the two books that we had done on our own. And so once we had written Who Needs Love, and once we had written Right Before My Eyes, we felt like, who knows if the show's going to go up? We want this out in the world, but people seem to want to sing it, so let's put it out there. And Hal Leonard, when you have a deal with them, they're like, oh, we want to use this. Let's put this in here and that kind. And so one day we're like, oh, it's in this book. How fabulous!
I think the story here for our listener then is as much, and I think this is so true, as much as you can carry your own ball down the field, you need to carry your own ball down the field. And if you've done your work correctly, someone will notice it and pick it up. And that was your version of carrying your own ball down the field. And you made it inevitable and easy enough that someone at that level wouldn't have to dig for it and could actually, make it easy. And brava to the two of you.
Thank you. Thank you. And
Um,
a little bit along the way, by the way, we heard about this new company called musicnotes.com. And so we're like, oh yeah, let's put our stuff on there too. And I mean, technology changes, delivery methods change, but the fact is it just made it easier for our songs to be out there. And, since our songs are sung in college settings and high school settings, it's a constantly renewing source because you're a freshman and you come in and a senior is singing one of these songs and they're like, who's wrote this? What is this? And then it's like Taylor's like the gateway drug, I guess is what I'm saying.
Absolutely. And you had it and you capitalized on it. And it's a beloved song. I mean, I would be, I'd be out in LA and I'd be hearing, people singing it. I was auditioning shows that I had written, and people would come in to audition for the shows, and they'd be bringing in Taylor the Latte Boy, and I would just be like, okay, I know these people. That's a good choice for this role. Good, good. So yeah. I applaud you not only for the song, but for, seeing the opportunities and capitalizing on them. And I don't think everyone naturally goes there. And so good for you guys. All right, so that's going to be our prelude. We're going to get into the what my listener said. You've got to get into the deep dives faster. We're going to get into those deep dives right after this.
Taylor, the latte boy, bring me java, bring me joy. Oh, Taylor, the latte boy, I love him, I love him, I love him.
And we're back.
And I'd like to get
Okay.
my nerve up.
I want you to know,
recite my
Zina,
musical
that
like the
for this segment, which is always about I bring in a song, you bring in a song, we talk about the song. I sent a text this morning to one Marcy Heisler. Okay?
Okay.
And I asked her, um, from her perspective, what is the one stand-up piece of materials from a strictly musical point of view? Because I'm interviewing, like I interviewed Steve and I'm going to interview Lynn, but I don't want to do the thing where, the teams come in together and they get to sort of like, no, I really want to focus on each one of you as your own individual artists, right?
Yes. Okay.
So I asked her from a musical point of view, harmonic language, melody, if there were no lyrics, what would she pick? And this was her answer in all caps. Too hard. I'm going to read from Marcy's text. I
All
could
right.
never answer that question easily or well. It's like asking what parts of a soul I like best.
Oh.
But then she did go on. And her choices are really fascinating, and they definitely jibed with some of mine, and I'm going to get to that. Who Needs Love, which we've discussed from Ever After. How Do I Feel from Truly Madly Deeply. Do I know that one?
I don't think you do,
I
but
don't think I do.
I will say this. I have a demo of it of Maren Mazzi singing it, and
Oh
it's
God.
yeah, it's really it's it's a really beautiful lyric, and we wanted to do Truly Madly Deeply, and so we wrote that song for it. We never did get the rights, but if you'd
Yeah.
like
Any
and
copyright issues on that demo?
not well, I mean, I could ask Jason basically.
Yeah, okay. That's all I need. Please send. And then Zena's a jazz cat, Marcy says, and I love when she jazzes out. I have a particular soft spot for the things we did in the 90s because it was so steeped in our lives and friend adventures. We could talk a little bit about that. But it's really in your books. Those are the song books. Those are the ones that, my God, what a treasure trove of material. And I know all of you listening know that, and please, I'll have links to all of that stuff. It's quite an astonishing body of work. Very happy memories of Georgia Eyring a lot at the piano during those days, making sense of life. And then she says, "I love Oh How I Loved You," and that was for sure on my top two or three.
Oh,
And then she says, and this is so interesting, and this is why I'm glad you're in front of your piano. She says, "I love the Zina Chord. Ask her what that means. It explains a lot about how we all feel sometimes. That Zina chord, that sweet bit of letting someone know you are listening. Zina's music feels like she's always listening, aside from being just generally great." That's
aw,
from Marcy Heisler.
I like her.
She's a good girl, right?
Right.
Let's talk about then what I was going to bring in two. I was going to talk about two things. I was gonna talk about Oh How I Loved You musically.
Oh, interesting.
I could think about the unimpressive way you said goodbye, relief and immaturity combined. I could recollect the nothing that you made of what we shared, talk it up to being young and scared and blind. I could summon all the grace inside me, surely, and but surely I could leave the past behind. But when I think about you, and I think about you, there's only one small thing that comes to mind. Oh, how I loved you. Oh, how I loved you. Strange and unfamiliar, ridiculous and true. Oh, how I loved you.
Well, let's just talk about the process. Was it lyric first? Was it music first? All of that. How did you find it? What was what's the emotional component of the process of sitting behind the keyboard and coming out with that music?
Okay. Um, you're really testing me because that song was written, Marcy and I cannot believe this when I say this, but we've been writing together for 30 years. So you're asking me to go back to a time about because this was very much at the beginning of our collaboration. The way we like to work, the way I like to work, and Marcy as well, for the most part, is lyrics first, or at least a part of the lyric. Um, and I prefer that because I like to know what I'm writing about. I want to know what is the emotion I'm trying to support or betray. It's
Mm,
one or the other, right?
mm.
So, and because let's face it, we have to decide, I have to decide as composer, is this character being truthful? Like, as in, I know we're jumping ahead to Who Needs Love, which is the song that I chose to discuss
Oh,
today. Also,
great.
so this will be sort of appropriate for that as well. But Who Needs Love is a person who is lying to herself. She is completely uh, unaware of the fact that she's totally in love or wants to be in love, right? And so the music has to tell us that, because the lyrics are not. The lyrics are like she protests too much, but the music is telling us a completely opposite story. Um, in Oh How I Loved You, though, that person is being very honest and very forthcoming with their
The
feelings.
lyrics are raw.
Yes. And you know, half the time I try to just stay out of the way. I know that sounds really funny, but like um on ballads, I tend to have a little more leeway with what I want to do, because it really is about, ballads really are uh very dependent on the music showing what that emotion is. And in comedy songs, I think that when I say I'm trying to stay out of the way, that is the best way that I can support a joke. That is the way I can stay out of the way of the lyrics, so that I understand the lyric, I can hear it. And I could talk all day about landing a punchline and, not making a lot of sudden movements, right?
Yep,
You
yep.
really want to stay where you are. You don't want to do anything super uh that's going to take your attention away. If you're doing something musical that takes our attention away even for a split second, then you're not thinking about the lyric. And if you're landing on that word that's the punchline, that is not the place to do the interesting chord. It just isn't.
Right.
Do them beforehand or leading up to it. It can be effective depending on the joke. It
Yep.
depends on the joke,
This is
like
such an
now.
interesting because it's also an actor note. I remember Brianna was doing Noises Off at the Old Globe, and there was a whole conversation she was having with me about you cannot move on the line I'm not, because you'll kill the laugh. And
Right.
you're saying the same thing as a composer.
Yeah.
It's a and you are actually it's funny that we're talking about the ballads, because of course to me what you're actually like your signature, your trademark is taking Marcy's patters and turning them into little masterpieces, and those are so lyric driven and lyric heavy. But of course I'm talking about like harmonic language and composition, but
Right.
it's all that. It's all harmonic language and composition, even when it's a patter song, even when it's heavy lyrics and all about the jokes, and that's what you're addressing
Yeah.
as a composer all the time.
Right. So I guess I'm telling you what I did in Oh How I Loved You by saying what I usually do and why that was a departure in that particular song. So in Oh How I Loved You, the verses are fairly wordy, right? I could think about the unexpected way we
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So that I had to come up with something that was a figure that you could hear, kind of that felt conversational, that would not wear out its welcome, and that would give the feeling, right? That just gives you where that person is emotionally, right?
Yes.
And so I did a lot of repetition. That the second line is like um actually an exact repeat of the first line, right? I can think about the unexpected way you said goodbye, relief and immaturity combined. Repeat. I could the nothing that you made of what we shared, chalk it up to being young and scared and blind. Now, for me, obviously, doing it a third time would again wear out its welcome. So I just went up the four, da, 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 and then I start to move out a little bit, right? Out of that, because that's what the lyric required at the time.
But also, you didn't just move everything up a fourth and continue the sequence. The second half of the fourth of that section, you then go to a third place, right?
Right, right. Well, it actually goes back down to the original key. But when I think about you and I think about you, right?
Yeah.
So we're back in that kind of tonal area that we were at the beginning, and then we're serving up the chorus, right? The oh how I loved you part.
Let's talk about this movement. So, I think this is fascinating. I want to go back just for 1 second. I really want our listener to absorb one thing you said that I've never heard put this way, and I think it's absolutely brilliant, which is, as a composer, you are looking at what emotion you want to either convey or betray. I think that is absolutely. I've never heard it crystallized in that way, and I think it's so important. And it's a completely not only brilliant way of looking at it, but it's really accurate. You really have to, as a lyricist, when I hand a lyric to a composer, and I'm very fortunate to work with composers who are very smart and they instinctively understand that, but to actually be able to intellectually say, this is the task. I mean, dramatically, am I conveying an emotion or am I betraying an emotion? Are the lyrics true, false, or somewhere in between? And that will determine what the harmonic language of the song is. That's really a fascinating thing. So let's go back to this song. The conversational, the conversational, the simplistic but interesting. Ba 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 ba. I'm able to absorb a lot of lyrics. I'm able to stay there, and it's still it's stirring at me just enough, but not too much and not being showy, right?
Right.
Ba 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 ba. So that bit of talk about the just the chord relation of the first half of those verses to the second, because when you're going from this very lovely da 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 da, when then you go into ba 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 ba, those are that there's an emotional decision being made there. So let's talk about what those actual chords are and how they function.
All right.
We've moved into the piano room now.
Otherwise known as my bedroom.
Okay, well, we don't need to say that.
Okay.
Zina and I have moved into the bedroom.
No, let's start it.
Terrible.
That's terrible.
How rumors get started. Zina, we're talking about Oh How I Loved You, and I was getting very granular, and here we are now. You can actually play for us. That the discussion is, let's talk about the chords in that very first stanza that you discovered, from the conversational, easygoing to the emotional heartbreak rawness of the second half. Let's talk about what those chords are and how you arrived at it.
So I don't know where these things come from half the time. I just start playing something. And the figure that I started to play with was, and then who knows what came after that, right? That was the figure. And that is the melody. I could think about the unexpected way he said goodbye, right?
Yep.
And in the lyric, she then tells you what that feeling is, right? Relief and immaturity combined. So to me, that felt different, right? She's like, I could, da, 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 what is,
Yep.
just said the lyric, but I could,
Unexpected way you said goodbye.
when you said goodbye. So I wanted it to feel less consonant, a little more complex, right?
Yep.
So we're in B flat. I went to D flat, right?
Up a minor third.
Right.
Yeah.
So. And then back here, right? Reset.
Those chords going down from the D flat are in whole tones?
It's like the circle of fifths, really, but. And then not really, but. It's actually. I don't know, that's just the way. So it's D flat, A flat over C, G flat over B flat, and then F over A. so that we're going back to B flat, right? The dominant of the B flat, right?
Wow.
And right, that's the bass line. It's going down by,
That's interesting.
by the scale, right?
I see. That's interesting.
But each one is talking about it now, I wasn't thinking about this, I just played it, but it's a lot more complex than one would think. But it's, you go to the D flat, and then the next thing is the first inversion of A flat, because the C is on the bottom. And then the next one is also a first inversion of G flat. We're on top of the B flat. And F is also first inversion over A, and then we resolve to the root position B flat, and we do it again.
Right.
Nothing that you made of what we shared. Again, here's what you did. Chalk it up to being young and scared and blind, right?
Yep.
Now he says, "I can summon all the grace inside me surely." So she's going somewhere else now, right?
Yes.
I could, and I go to the fourth.
The fourth.
All the grace inside me surely. So I'm still doing that descending line. Everything is descending as I think about this, and there's just something about a descending line that pulls you down emotionally as well.
Yes.
So everything that's and this just feels like ruminating to me.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But again, the repetition of it helps us really focus on the lyric, because we know what it is now, and it's not changing.
Right.
Right. So now I can my ear's going to let that go and listen to what the words are saying. So we, where I say, so we went to the fourth. I could summon all the grace inside me surely, and I keep going down, and maturely I could leave the past behind. I had to go somewhere else, right?
Where is that in relation to the B flat?
Now we're at 6. So we go to G, right?
Dude, so this is interesting.
It's down a minor third. It's down a minor third, but it's a major. It's G major. It's not G minor, right?
And how much did the lyrics take you to G major as opposed to something else?
Well, the lyric is, "and maturely I could leave the past behind," right?
Yep.
So to me, that's a healthy, positive thing. So but listen to it if you did it minor. It doesn't make any sense. I could summon all the grace inside me surely, and surely I could leave the past behind.
However, let's say the lyric was doing something different. If the lyric was saying, and something, and I'm going to then go and lay down for 3 hours, then the G minor chord. Wait, what's the lyric?
Now I'm going to go and take a nap.
I'm going to go and take a nap. Would be a G flat.
But there's a but there, and it leads to something else, right?
Yes.
Now all of a sudden I feel like this section here is leading to something a little more positive. When I think about you, and I think about you, there's only one small thing that comes to mind. So I am winding up here to go to B flat. When I think about you, and I think about you.
And we're at the root then, if we're in the B flat.
Well, yeah, it's C minor there. Again, I'm using these inversions. I'm not jumping around a lot, right? All these chords that I'm doing are very close to each other. I'm not going, if I did B flat, if I did all root, it would be, when I think about you, and I think about you. It's too much movement. So it's much more elegant to use these inversions, right? Because when I think about you, and I think about you, right?
Yes.
And only one small thing that comes to mind.
Now, did your fingers go to these inversions more than I want to harmonically accomplish something?
100%.
Okay.
I do not. Okay. I'm analyzing what I did. When I write, I don't think about this stuff. This stuff is just, it's there. It's in me. So my hands are not going to lift off the keyboard and do a lot of jumps. I'm doing a song right now where I'm doing a lot of key changes and things like that. And that feels right for where that character is. especially on a ballad. I mean, when you're there's a little bit of a jump here. Only one small thing that comes to mind. I didn't go right. I didn't go C, B flat over D, E flat to the F. I did C minor, E flat major 7, right? Up the minor third again. Only one small thing that comes to mind. So that's a little jump. And we get to the chorus, and now it's like the lyric is so honest and simple,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And the lyric was, "Oh, how I loved you," right? And "oh" is one of those great syllables to sing.
Yeah.
Oh, how I loved you, right? And it repeats, "Oh, how I loved you," right? So we do it twice, and I go up the first time. I really think this, right? We land into it better the second time, right? There's only one small thing that comes to mind. Wow, I really loved you. How I loved you, right?
Yep.
I did love you. I have this feeling, but I have to say it again. And the music leads to it. Oh, how I loved you. I really mean it. I am definitive about that. I am in the root, right? So first up. Was it Sweet and Unfamiliar?
Yep. True.
Sweet and unfamiliar, and as the sky is blue. Sorry, Marcy, I'm blowing these lyrics so badly. You're the one who always sings this one. But anyway. Oh, how I loved you. So here I'm moving now. Now I'm doing these 2 5s, right?
2 5, 2 5.
Right. So, by the way, that is a bit of the Zina Chord. Right? And I play it 2 different ways. But sometimes I do. And I go down in the which I think is how it is in the sheet music. Because it's sad. This was a beautiful thing, but it did not end well, right? So it's just bittersweet, right?
Yes.
And going down more. Oh, how I loved you. So the whole thing is just kind of pulling down, even though the vocal goes back up, right? Vocal goes up, but we keep going down in the piano. Oh, how I loved you.
And back to that motif. Let's do a quick experiment. Do the boring version of the ending of that phrase of how I loved you. Like sweet and familiar, like just even oh how I loved you. What would be the boring version of oh? I want to, and let's contrast. So, let's talk about that boring version.
Right. So this is it's a half diminished C minor over G flat, if you must know. So we are going down the thing, right? I wanted to continue going down, and I didn't want that really open thing. It didn't work out.
Yes.
But it resolves. Oh, how I loved you. So it does come home, but it's not as this. When we start out in the beginning of it, it's, oh, how I loved you. Very simple, right? G minor, E flat, B flat. Very simple moving around, right?
Yeah.
And then we resolve again. But at the end, it's not G minor. It's that C half diminished over G flat, and then resolving to the F sus. I loved you.
This is the artistry, just like this moment. I know this is what Marcy is talking about with the Zina Chord, and what I'm talking about with why I picked this song too is this is something all great composers are able to figure out And I think it's a combination of, instinct and where the fingers are going, but also ultimately you have to have, the mathematical academic understanding of what it is that you're accomplishing. But there is a boring version that most composers will just because they don't have the skills to go to, will go to, and there is your sound, which is right in that bar of music. The boring version, which is basically like, was it 4-5-1?
2-5-1.
5-1, 2.
Right? Or 4-5-1. Yes. Either would be equally.
Let's contrast everything about 2-5-1 and what you actually do. Because that is the anatomy of the Zina Goldrich moment for me, right there.
Okay, so I'll do the 2-5-1 first, and then I'll do the one that I did.
Yes. And by the way, not terrible.
Wrong with it? Absolutely nothing wrong with it, but yeah.
What are the elements in those chords that give them that flavor that vary from the 2 to the 5 to the 1? What are the actual like diminished thirds or augmented fifths or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, this is E minor flat 5, so and then it's a 2-5 basically here, right? But I'm not doing that B natural there. Feels too happy to me.
Yeah.
But that flat 5 tugs, right? It tugs
Yes.
the hard right.
Yes.
But I didn't really want to go jump up again. Da, 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 da. It's just like weighting me down. It keeps on going down. Right?
Yes.
And it's so funny, again, I have to reiterate this, which is when I wrote this, I wasn't thinking about any of this. I'm analyzing what I did right now. I can tell you what I did, and I can even tell you, just on a technical standpoint, why I think that works or why I probably chose it. But I start, when I have a lyric in front of me, I have my iPhone on, and I just sing and play and see what happens. And sometimes, it doesn't always come out immediately like that, by the way. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it comes out really easily. I don't know why. And then other times you are just like, what is that thing? Where do I need to go here? I don't want to go this place. Everybody goes there. I want to do something. My goal usually is, I've said this before too, which I want to go where people think I'm going to go, but not in a way that they expect. So they get the satisfaction of landing where the song demands to go, where it must go. But I get there in a way that they didn't really think I was going to do that. All of a sudden we're like, oh, here we are. And, it's like you took like a shortcut or the back roads or something. And
but every variation away from where we needed to go that isn't that is information. It's all emotional information.
right.
And it's it brings me to tears just like to hear that music and know it's somewhere in your experience and in your hands, it's 2-5-1, but it can't be 2-5-1.
Right.
It has to be
Something else.
every little adjustment, every little bit of sculpting away from the 2-5-1 that you can do to make it more interesting and not go too far, but just far enough and in just the right direction. And all of those little notches in the sculpture working, symbiotically is all information, emotional information. And you are so masterful at that. It's every one of your songs
in me, to be honest, because I grew up with a lot of jazz in the house. Some of the finest jazz musicians in the world came over for to play at my house on a weekend, because my dad played with Mel Lewis and Thad Jones at the Village Vanguard for 7 years, so really, I mean, just incredible musicians and voicings, and hearing, tempos that were really in the pocket, what that feels like, what that feels like emotionally, and not just, from a technical standpoint. But all of jazz, I mean, have you ever heard of rhythm changes? Do you know what those are?
I think so, but you tell me.
So it's the chords to I've Got Rhythm. And but right?
Right.
There are tons of improvisations on top of rhythm changes, right? But so people do all sorts of substitutions all the time. That's what jazz is, right? Lots of places.
So rhythm changes literally refers to the song "I Got Rhythm," which I was not aware of until today.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
And so what I like to do is sometimes I'll start out with something extremely simple because maybe it's not coming to me. I don't know what it is yet. I'll get it later. And I'll write something that's probably a little boring on a first draft. And then I'm going to come back and say, what can I switch out here? What's a chord that will be unexpected here and yet still make me feel like I've had the thing that makes me comfortable, right? The thing that I expected to do. And that's half of the writing. It's just kind of switching out things and different inversions and different voicings because, there are only so many notes on the keyboard, right?
I have so many things I want to talk to you about now. I knew this was going to happen. So we want to cover your song, which is "Who Needs Love." But before we do that, and there's two other things. I just want to say the highest compliment any artist can probably pay to another artist is stealing from them, and I absolutely stole something from you and Marcy for Five Women in an Airport, which was the motif that you use in Baltimore. And I just want to have a quick conversation about Baltimore and my song, Date is Just a Four-Letter Word. Because when I was writing Date is Just a Four-Letter Word 20 years ago, which has remained in Five Women in an Airport, which took 20 years from where it started to where it is now.
That's how long it takes.
It's what it takes. I knew that I had all of this spewing that this character needed to do of words. She just had to just let these words out. And I knew it couldn't be ordered in a particular type of way. And at around the time that I was creating this character back in 2005, 2006, 2007, you guys had come out with a song called Baltimore. And I just thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever heard in my life. And I just thought musically, it was so daring and bold that you had taken this motif where a character is just rambling. And somehow I knew it had order to it, but it also had order in its disorder. And I knew that somewhere there'd be a chart which would actually, write it all out. And eventually, that sort of idea found its way into Date is Just a Four-Letter Word. But can you talk about, just for 2 seconds, how that moment in Baltimore came? And since you're at the piano now, I feel like you can actually demonstrate a little bit about that. I don't want to get too into the weeds, but I want to get into some of the weeds about it.
Granular, I promise. But I'll say two things about it because there are two parts of this, which is that Marcy had started to write this song about someone that she had dated. And so she was listing things and whatever. And then I said, wait, I dated a guy from Baltimore. And then I started, and she's like, oh, really? She's like, because that's not what the song was originally about. And then so I started to list some of those things from my person who was like from my first boyfriend in the city when I moved here when I was like 19 years old. And so there are many things I sing in there that are absolutely 100% true because that's where the best art comes from anyway.
Yep.
And already I think when we were writing it, I'm like, I'm having a hard time fitting this in. She's like, no, I think we should just keep on, whatever. And so we're like, okay. and then all of a sudden it just kind of got longer and more ridiculous as we went along. But I knew that it still had to feel like a song, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know why I stayed in the jazz idiom for this, but it really made me kind of happy to do, because if you've seen our show or you've been in our show, which
I've been in the show and we've done this number with your dad.
With my dad playing the trumpet on it. And so we do like a whole section where we're just, improving on it, which is kind of fun. Talking about substitutions, where I started out with something boring and then changed it later, which is avoid navel contemplating floppy-haired actors originally from Baltimore, right? Now, originally I went who excel at mine, so I'm in B flat and I went to E flat. I went to 4, right?
The 4.
And so I had navel contemplating floppy-haired actors originally from Baltimore, and all of a sudden I'm like, what if I went to excel at mine, right? I went to the E minor 7 flat 5, so it's like a 2-5. It's a 2-5 of D minor, right?
Right.
Instead of, it could be something like that, right?
Right.
But still plays their issues with their mom, right? And then the whole song is 2-5, by the way. Right? 2-5-1, 2-5-1.
Right.
Show tension, then return and dear, they'll drop you like a bomb. Now notice I didn't do, but show attention, then return and dear, they'll drop you like a bomb, right?
Yep.
I am not making any sudden movements here. If I'm going down the scale, but give attention, then return and dear, they'll drop you like a bomb. That's it. Go down the thing, and then hopefully you get the laugh, right?
Yes.
And then stuff as many words here as we can. And Marcy makes me sing all of these and put all the words in it, because I have to remember the words and she doesn't have to, and she'll tell you this 100% herself. But then the second time I do go to the B flat. Who can't piss unless their shrink says it's okay? But I didn't go piss unless their shrink says it's okay, right? I went okay. I went back again to the E flat, and then sung the fifths, and then Bugs Brown to make it go away.
I want to, in case we never get back here again, I just do want to say probably my favorite Marcy Heisler lyric, now that I'm thinking about it, is at the end of this song. Let's do it. If you Baltimore boys do not marry him, the Merriam setup.
Baltimore and me boys do not marry him. Although it's true, I hear that they've got quite a nice aquarium.
I mean, come on, Merriam aquarium.
Make their hearts and run as fast as little legs can carry them.
And to carry him. I mean, come on.
Baltimore.
I mean,
and also, let's face it, there are better boys from Boise. There are better boys from Boise. Boys from Boise always call. You'll have better luck in Joyce or St. Paul. Right.
And then what's the next one? Let's do it. And
no matter where life takes you, 2-5. It just makes no sense to fall. Big finish in ball. But I did get Baltimore, false cadence, more. Hey, where are you from? Silver Spring?
That's some first-rate writing across the board, both of you. I mean, wow. And I something I love about what you guys also do is, your willingness to develop an idea all the way to its stretching point. Because so much of what we encounter, and I know you've encountered this, and when we work for these companies, like these big companies like Disney, it's all about, we have to get it in 90 seconds. You got to trim out the first 2 bars of the first 2 beats of the introduction, and then you don't go back to a bridge, and
that is the advantage of making no money, David. Because when we wrote these songs, we wrote them for our own pleasure and enjoyment. And so, yeah, it's a long song. It absolutely is. And it's wordy and it's weird and it's very us. I mean, it's just because nobody was telling us what to do. And so we weren't really breaking any rules. We were establishing our own style and our own way of communicating, which is really fun,
But it's also really it's all of those things, and it's also rooted in structure. It's rooted in it actually has an integrity about it that is not like you're not smashing everything against the wall and having it be confusing. It's like it's what you were articulating before about it's like it's all going where you need it to go, but not where you expect it to go. And there is a there's a the fulsomeness of that structure of that song is so satisfying because you're just like you want to be able to develop one idea and not have it be like a series of sort of random thoughts that just got set to music, right? You want to actually, there's always one great idea in one great song, and you want to have exploited all of its facets for the audience to have a full experience of the idea. And you guys are really good at that. And Baltimore is a really good example of that in a really funny way. And then when you actually get to when I've been in shows with you and performed it live, I'm not in that one, but to have your dad get up and play the trumpet.
That was one of the
And
great.
Marcy has written a lyric, my father trumpeted my way.
Yeah, yeah.
It's honestly, it's music theater magic, and thank you for it.
Can I tell you one funny thing about Baltimore, which is that I'd always wanted Audra McDonald to sing one of our songs, and so I knew Andy Einhorn, and he was her MD, and I said, hey, can I give you some songs for Audra and everything? And so I sent over "Oh How I Loved You," and we sent over all this stuff, and at the very last minute, at the end, at the last song, I'm like, I'll throw Baltimore in there, right?
And guess
What's
what?
the song she chose?
That's the one she chose.
Baltimore, and she did it. She did it at Lincoln Center. She did it in her concerts for a long time, and that I just couldn't believe it. I was like, okay, I guess we're doing this song then. She was so awesome in it. I got to tell you, she did a great job.
She's got good taste. She's got good taste.
Thank you.
Shares that with you and me. She's got good taste. She does a good song when she hears it. It's the thing about you guys is it's like all of these pieces are these little mini masterpieces. That for sure is like at the top. I mean, look at "Oh How I Loved You," you guys. Go look at "Oh How I Loved You." Go look at Baltimore. Go look at these songbooks. There's like one great piece of material after the other. It's really it's amazing.
Yes, do steer clear of Renaissance festival-loving food service consultants originally from Baltimore, who say they dance with NYC Ballet but are really an administrative intern. For it's clear upon reflection, if you give him your affection, you will understand the concept crash and burn. The singles world out there can be a scary land. I have to ask, is it me? Or is it Maryland? Dad, you knew that loser. Come up and solo on it. If you have to go to Baltimore and meet boys, do not marry 'em. Although it's true, I hear that they've got quite a nice aquarium. Ladies, take your hearts and run as fast as little legs can carry 'em from Baltimore. There are better boys in Boise. Boys from Boise always call. You'll have better luck in Joyzy or St. Paul. Well, not St. Paul, but no matter where life takes you, it just makes no sense to fall in Baltimore. Hey, where are you from? Silver Spring?
Thank you for joining us for Does It Sing with David Goldsmith and Friends, a podcast from Virtual Stage Lab. Please like, subscribe, and share wherever you get your podcasts.
Does It Sing with David Goldsmith and Friends is a production of Virtual Stage Lab. Virtual Stage Lab was founded by Paul Gordon and David Goldsmith to create film captures of original musicals and plays to democratize how theater gets developed, seen, produced, and licensed for production. If you have a particular song, show, or story idea from a musical that you'd like to have David discuss, break down, and analyze whether or not it sings, please contact our Director of Marketing, Melody Munitz, at virtualstagelab@gmail.com. For more information and our catalog of original projects by David Goldsmith, Jane Eyre's Paul Gordon, Disney and 5 Women at an Airport's John Cavanaugh, and others, go to www.virtualstagelab.com. Main title parody lyrics written and performed by David Goldsmith. End title music by Paul Gordon from the Gordon and Goldsmith musical My Improbable Sisters, starring Jenna Lee Rosen and Tony Award nominee Jasmine Amy Rogers, now available to stream for free on the Virtual Stage Lab page on YouTube. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please remember to like, comment, share, and most importantly, subscribe to whichever platform you're listening on, especially the David Goldsmith Lyrics page on YouTube. Thank you for listening. Welcome to the community. This has been Does It Sing with David Goldsmith and Friends.
David.
Doesn't have a friend.
Oh, come on, Mom.